Doc Moore's Collection of Horror Stories YouTube channel. Episode number 9. Doc Moore's Collection of Horror Stories YouTube channel is sponsored by Caselet.com. Caselet.com. Design your unique and very affordable phone case with AI. Create your own stunning, one-of-a-kind phone case design using the power of artificial intelligence. From abstract art to nature scenes, Caselet offers a wide variety of Apple, Samsung, and Google phone cases. Caselet.com brings your vision to life. I got mine. Get yours. Shop Caselet.com. That's Caselet. Caselet.com. Now, from Doc Moore's studio, located on Oahu, Hawaii, here's your host, Dr. Stephen B. Moore, Sr. Aloha, good evening, and welcome to episode number 9, Doc Moore's Collection of Horror Stories YouTube channel. I'm your host, Stephen B. Doc Moore, Sr. Tonight I'll present a tale involving a prevalent superstition about gambling after midnight, or the devil will get you. I will also read an excerpt from my book, Doc Moore's Collection of Horror Stories. First, here is my own personal experience with a superstition that came to my front door. Now, there are superstitions that warn against playing cards after midnight, suggesting that the devil visits those who do. According to various myths and online sources, playing cards, gambling after midnight supposedly invites the evil one who can take your soul. Superstition against playing cards and gambling after midnight exists in the U.S. in places like Louisiana, particularly New Orleans, where the old folks believe gambling is linked to sin and spiritual danger. My grandmother believed gambling was evil, citing the New Testament account Matthew 27, verses 35 to 37, of soldiers throwing dice for Jesus' clothes after they nailed Jesus to the cross. That's why we are always warned, never gamble, and especially never gamble past midnight. Midnight, the witching hour, or the devil's hour, is a late night period linked to supernatural activity, often defined as just after midnight and also between 3 a.m. and 4 a.m. Why am I talking about all this? This brings me to my grandmother and my mother's warnings about why you shouldn't play poker or any gambling card game after 11:59 p.m., especially on a Saturday night. Listen to what I'm about to say. Now, my family comes from the deep South, specifically Louisiana, a place well known for folk tales, urban legends, superstitions about evil spirits. The warning is clear. After midnight, especially if Saturday night turns into Sunday morning, you shouldn't gamble or play cards past 11:59 p.m. Otherwise, an uninvited guest might visit and take your soul, leading you to hell. This is my account of that urban legend passed down by my grandmother to my mother and to us. On a Saturday night in Detroit, my siblings and I were gathered in our home. My brothers and I were in the kitchen. We were playing poker with plastic chips. Gambling was not permitted. Gambling with real money was definitely not permitted by our mother. And Dad backed her up. We considered this activity acceptable, though, with plastic chips, since it did not involve actual currency. While we played cards at the kitchen table, The other members of the family were engaged elsewhere. Some were watching television in the living room. Others were upstairs. Mom and Dad were in their bedroom sleeping. At approximately 9 o'clock, my mom came downstairs into the kitchen. Mom reminded us that it was getting late and we needed to prepare for church the following morning. She instructed us to clean up the kitchen, gather our belongings for church, and get ready for bed, emphasizing her expectation that we will be attending. When my mom saw cards and poker chips on the kitchen table, she referenced biblical teachings, reminding us of Matthew chapter 6, verse 24. You cannot serve both God and money. Mom went on to talk about 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 10, which stated, for the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil. Mom reinforced the family rule not to play cards past midnight, recalling advice previously given by our grandmother earlier that day when she came over and visited. Our grandmother, who's my father's mother, had been visiting and reminiscing with my parents about their experiences in Louisiana. She is known for possessing knowledge of local folk tales and cultural traditions. My grandmother is and was. My grandmother knew voodoo and related practices common in New Orleans, Alexandria, Baton Rouge, and other places in Louisiana. Grandma warned us not to play cards past midnight, saying that that's when that old serpent, the devil, would come for us. She referenced Matthew chapter 26, verse 15, reminding us how the devil possessed Judas, who betrayed Jesus for 30 pieces of silver, and cautioned that gambling after midnight is sinful. We kids, we laughed, knowing Grandma loved sharing ghost stories just to keep us in line. We were playing cards in the quiet kitchen at 10:30. My parents were asleep. My sisters were upstairs, and it was just my brothers and me. I pulled out some $1 bills from my paper route earnings and suggested we play for money. And since all of us had a little cash from our jobs, we all agreed, except my youngest brother reminded us of what Grandma and Mom said about gambling. But I joked that we're all grown men now. Of course, I was only 16 at the time. My younger brother was being strict, but we still played poker. My older brothers had more money than me, and my little brother had none, so I loaned him a few dollars. We played for cash, laughed, and ignored what Grandma said about us. We lost track of time. At midnight, while we were still playing, something happened. We heard the front door open. Now we wonder who was coming in the house. Maybe my older sister Deborah sneaking in from a party as usual. My older brother told me to check the door. So I looked. I got up and went, but it was closed and no one was there. But it did smell funny, like somebody was burning sulfur. We went back to playing cards. As midnight passed, we suddenly heard strange footsteps in the hallway. But these footsteps really sounded like clunky little hooves, like a horse or something with a hoof, more than shoes. And then we heard something really spooky. The sound in the hallway also carried a deep voice with it. This deep voice, unlike anyone in our house, spoke up. And this is what it said. It's my turn, and I'll deal the cards. We stood from the table. We got up, backed up from the table. We exchanged glances, and then we heard footsteps approaching still, getting a little louder and closer and closer. And with it came a terrible sulfur-like burning odor smell that filled the air. almost as if something was burning. Fear gripped us. We realized something was coming. So we dashed down the hallway and ran up the stairs, leaping onto our beds and quickly shutting the door behind us. That woke my parents up. My father got out of bed, grabbed his pistol. My mother was right behind him. So was my father's dog, a German Shepherd. And they came up the stairs. And my mom said to him, "George, someone broke into the house." So my daddy came up the stairs with his gun in his hand. He opened up the kitchen door and went to the kitchen. First, he went to the front door and checked. He went around through the living room and checked the windows. They were all locked, the doors and the windows. And then he and my mama went into the kitchen. And they saw the table had money on it because we forgot to take the money when we ran. And they saw the playing cards on the table. And they was showing we was gambling. And then they looked at the clock. And they knew that we were playing past midnight. And we were gambling with the money. But they also said there was a funny, nasty smell in the house. And they both said the same thing at the same time. It could be Papa Legba. It could be old Scratch. It could be that old serpent called the devil. It could be the evil spirit that came to get Saul. But they knew something had come in the house. Well, needless to say, Mama and Daddy went upstairs and got me and my 3 other brothers and marched us down, right back down the stairs. We had to clean up the kitchen. We gave Mama all the money from the table. Dad had us mop and sweep the floor, clean the table off, and then smacked us in the head and sent us to bed to get ready for church. And Mama said, "If you yawn in church, Stevie," my mom threatened to punish me severely. I was known to try to take a little nap. Now, after Grandma heard what happened, she brought over a whole bunch of old black women and a minister and a priest, and they all blessed the house and went around from room to room, and we had to go with them praying too. And then we were told, do not play any more card games at all in this house for a very long time. So that's my tale about playing cards after midnight. Make sure you pay attention to what I said. Now, this next story is an excerpt from my book. And this is titled The Backseat. And this is from my book, Doc Moore's Collection of Horror Stories, Volume 1. It was on a Friday, the 13th in Savannah, Georgia. Now, all kind of couples were out across the city enjoying movies, dinners, and events. However, as evening fell, newscasts warned residents about a large man seen walking around parking lots, theaters, malls, and clubs. And the newscasters urged everyone to be cautious. Warnings came out on TV, radio, and social media, stated that at multiple times couples vanished on a number of occasions. Witnesses said a large man was seen prowling around cars and parking lots. The police advised people to travel in pairs, keep phones charged, inform others of their whereabouts, and always check car interiors before entering and driving away. Most people listened to those warnings, but this couple didn't. They didn't follow these warnings on the Friday the 13th. After watching a movie in Savannah, the couple got into their cars without checking the back seat, despite the girlfriend's worries and news warnings. The boyfriend had duty early in the morning over at Fort Stewart, Georgia, 24th Infantry Division. He rest assured her, joking that no one was hiding there and dismissed her concerns as coincidence. He showed her the gun he had in the glove compartment and said, "I can fix any problem." In the mix, they started laughing and took off. Now, while the guy was driving, the girl started kissing him and tickling him and telling him how excited she was to be with him. And the boy, well, he finally couldn't handle it, so he pulled over on this dark, lonely area and was parked by the lake. He couldn't take it, so he pulled the girl over to him and they started to kiss. There were no other cars around, and so they were very close to each other. And the boy said, "You know, we could have some fun right here and right now." And the girl said, "Yeah, maybe we could." And then a voice in the back seat said, "Mind if I join in on the fun?" The boy looked in the rearview mirror and saw a man with blazing yellow eyes looking back at him. The man leaned forward and grabbed the boy by his forehead. The girl tried to reach in the glove compartment and gave him the gun. The boy reached over his shoulder and fired the gun. Pow, 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 pow. But it was too late. The man drew his fingers across the boy's throat and threw him against the seat. The girl screamed and tried to get out of the door, but the man grabbed her and pulled her into the back seat. The girl looked at him. The girl got a closer look at his face. It wasn't a man at all. It was a ghoul. The girl screamed and tried to get out of the car. The ghoul pushed the girl over the seat and he pulled her back into the back with him. Pretty soon, she was just like the boy, dead. But that wasn't all. The ghoul began to eat the bodies of the dead boy and the dead girl. After they didn't make it home, and the soldier didn't make it back to the base, their parents were called, the base commander was called, and a patrol was set up to look for them. Troopers from the Georgia State Patrol found the car the next night. They came up on the car with their guns drawn. They used their flashlights to check the interior of the car. It was a horrible sight. The cops saw the boy and the girl were partially eaten. Their eyes were missing. Their tongues were missing. And half their bodies were missing. The Georgia State troopers saw bloody handprints on the hood of the car. The troopers started following something standing on the side of the road, crouching down behind a bush. The troopers ordered it to come out. It stood up and looked like a man, and it came running at them. It was very large, and his hands looked like there was blood on them. Those troopers opened fire. The hands looked like razors, and they kept coming at the troopers, slashing and fighting with them. The good thing was the troopers' car called for backup, and soon other Georgia State Police troopers came by. They joined in at fighting this evil oncoming creature. The man-like creature slashed the nearest trooper across his face. Then this thing ran into the bushes and into the woods. The trooper's hot on his heels. More Georgia State troopers backed up the other troopers, and they joined the fight. The evil thing ran into a clearing and turned to face all the oncoming troopers that followed it into and through the bushes. A female trooper took aim and shot the creature in the forehead. They all were shocked when the man-like creature, the ghoul, ripped at its own face and tore open its skin. It had orange flesh. His eyes were orange, scaly yellow, and his skin had fur on the top of his head and on his arms. The eyes were bright yellow and bleeding from the bullet wound to its head. The troopers were stunned at what they've seen. Another trooper ran forward with a shotgun and fired point blank at the ghoul. The ghoul screamed and attacked the trooper with a shotgun and ripped out his lung. The other troopers fired more rounds into the ghoul. The troopers arrived and joined the fight. The ghoul fought hard, hand to hand with the incoming troopers, slashing and cutting them as they fought with him and shot him. It seemed like the ghoul was unstoppable. But something happened that changed the fight. One of the troopers pulled out her cross and started praying. And she advanced directly at the ghoul and pointed her cross at the ghoul and then touched it on its exposed flesh. The ghoul screamed that it began to burn. The troopers realized that that woman, that female trooper, she had the power that their guns didn't have, and that was the cross that she wore around her neck. She touched her cross to the ghoul again and again. The other troopers pulled the ones who were wounded off of the way as the lady cop kept touching the ghoul with the cross, and they were staggering back and screaming. And then something else happened. Other Georgia State troopers pulled out their religious icons. One had the Star of David. Others had the Catholic crucifix. But they all began to touch and hold it to the ghoul, who was burning now, screaming and hollering in anger, and then showed terror at the oncoming troopers with their religious icons. The intensity of the flames caused by the religious icons touching and holding to the flesh of the ghoul inflamed. Blue sparks and flames engulfed the ghoul. It screamed at the state troopers. It would be back. The master would see that. It laughed and warned that it would be back with more ghouls. It said that everyone should be afraid of the dark because it would return to kill. And with a hideous scream, the ghoul disappeared in a cloud of smoke and vanished, leaving only charred earth behind as evidence of its existence. That following year, on Friday the 13th, a couple left the movie theater in the rain and drove off together. As they listened to the radio, an announcer warned about a killer on the loose, urging listeners to lock their doors and check their cars. The couple laughed. They joked about it while driving back toward Aiken, South Carolina. From Aiken and on to Fort Gordon, Georgia. Signal school. But they stopped abruptly. They stopped laughing. Or they stopped laughing when they heard more laughter. Only this time it was coming from the back seat. The voice in the back seat said, "Can I join in on the fun too?" That's an excerpt from my book, Doc Moore's Collection of Horror. And this chapter was entitled The Backseat. And you can get my book at Amazon Bookstore, KDP, hardback, paperback, and on Kindle, ebook. Well, this concludes the episode number 9. Mahalo to all who have subscribed. And please click the subscribe button so I can continue bringing these supernatural stories to you on my YouTube channel. Until next time, that sound in the dark, that movement in the corner, is it real? Is it true? What do you think? You be the judge. Until next time, I'm Doc Moore. Good night. Collection of horror stories. You've been listening to, and you've been watching, Doc Moore's Collection of Horror Stories YouTube channel, sponsored by Caselet.com. Caselet.com. Design your unique and very affordable phone case with AI. Create your own stunning, one-of-a-kind phone case design using the power of artificial intelligence. From abstract art to nature scenes, Caselet offers a wide variety of Apple, Samsung, and Google phone cases. Caselet brings your vision to life. I got mine. Doc Moore got his. Get yours. Shop Caselet. That's CASELYT. Caselet.com. Join us next time for Doc Moore's Collection of Horror Stories YouTube channel. Send your comments, criticisms, questions, and more to Doc Moore Collection Horror at hotmail.com. Subscribe and follow. Like Doc Moore on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Check out Doc Moore and the Moore Ohana Band on Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Apple Music, Amazon, YouTube, Pandora, and other streaming platforms. Audio and video production created by Tanya L. and Stephen B. Doc Moore Sr. and the Moore Ohana Band at the Doc Moore Recording Studio, Oahu, Hawaii. All content created, recorded, produced, and under copyright by Stephen B. Doc Moore Sr., Ph.D., Media Productions, LLC.